So welcome back everybody to yet another kickback. We're back again for the 11th podcast. We're joined again by the two regulars.
Thanks.
Yeah, Lewis and Nick. So how are you two doing?
I'm doing
All
normally.
going good? Yeah,
I was almost...
You make us sound like two fat old men who drink at pubs in the corner, calling us regulars.
Yeah, like the...
I don't think I like that term.
I do a little bit, yeah.
The middle-aged men, basically.
Yeah,
Call us seasoned pros,
Seasoned
not
veterans,
regulars.
Sorry, yeah, we got two seasoned veterans here at the minute.
Still making us sound old, but... Okay.
Well, yeah, it's two seasoned youngsters who are still in the prime of their careers, but already have the knowledge and the know-how to succeed in the industry. How are you doing, Nick, as well?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for Villa. You know, being surrounded by Villa fans, I'm happy for Villa, and I'm really happy Derby didn't get to the Premier League.
Me too.
Although they're really well, a really well supported club, I really don't like Derby.
What's with this against Derby?
I just don't like them. It's just, I don't know. It's just, sometimes you have dislikings to clubs.
Yeah, like
For
I
me,
do to Liverpool.
100%.
Derby are a bit. Yeah, but you've got it because you're a United fan, so you can understand that.
I've got that for Burnley for some reason.
Yeah.
I just think, and Stoke as well. Burnley and Stoke, I just see as the most boring clubs like on the face of the planet. I really hate them.
I actually can't think of any that I have that
And
aren't
Rangers
like
as well.
rivalries.
Don't like Rangers.
Oh yeah, same. I don't like.
It's because I like Celtic.
I don't like Rangers.
I like Celtic, but yeah, the first time I've ever really had anything to celebrate as a Villa fan, so happy. It's the first time I've ever seen like actually anything successful come of Villa. I know it's like
the first time you've ever seen them lift a trophy. Go
yeah,
on.
it's literally the first time I've ever seen them lift a trophy in my entire life.
Of course, me and Nick know what that's like.
I'd narrowly missed out on the UEFA Intertoto Cup in 2001. Didn't quite catch that because I was too young.
You are literally an encyclopedia.
Yeah,
like literally.
Well, yeah. I've got that knowledge there. So yeah, we're gonna cover some interesting topics in today's podcast. We are actually going to be talking about Villa later on in Transfer Window Waffle. So that I believe is going to be the final Transfer Window Waffle. Do you think this is going to be the last one, or should we do one more?
When does it open?
I think it's already opened.
I think it's the 1st of June officially.
Yeah, but like there's still some stuff seems to have been going on, like some agreements have been made, I think. But yeah, I think it will officially open on the 1st of June. So I feel like it's kind of not worth doing each week. So yeah, get at us with any suggestions for potential future segments to replace it. So we'll be doing that, and then we'll also be answering some fan questions as well, yet again at the end of today's podcast. So let's get into the main part of it now. We've seen the PFA Team of the Year. We've seen that. We've seen multiple teams of the season, XIs of players in the Premier League. Happens at the end of every single season. But we thought we would take on a challenge of basically finding the best players outside of the top 6. So obviously the top 6 consists of the two Manchester clubs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and Spurs. So we're going to be finding the best players, the cream of the crop, if you like, from the other teams in the division last season. So how did you find this, guys? Did you find this quite challenging?
Apart from like getting like obvious players from teams like Everton, Wolves, and like a couple from Bournemouth, I did find it quite difficult because I don't have as good of a knowledge outside the top 6. Like if you told me to do like a regular team of the season, I could probably do it quite easily. But this actually took some like more research as into like who's been doing what throughout the season.
Yeah, definitely. We've gone for a 4-3-3 formation as well. Just keeping that clear, and it's kind of we've gone for kind of like a mixture, because there's always this debate with team of the year or team of the season or whatever. Do you go for a team that will work well together, or do you go for the best individuals in each position? So we've kind of gone for the best individuals. I think it would be the players that I've got. I think a lot of them would go very well together anyway, because just of the players that I've actually gone for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Nick to start this off and see what suggestions he has for the goalkeeper position. Take it away.
Right, firstly, what I'm going to say is this is really good to do if you're into like your fantasy football. For our listeners, you always have your good players, your Agueros, Mané, Salahs, but you're always looking to fill positions on Fantasy League.
So basically to get a steal.
Yeah, basically. So that's where this comes into effect. Outside the bottom six, you're going to obviously need players in your fantasy team who are worth 3 and 4 million according to that index. So this for me was, I know Lewis, you said you might have struggled with it because I've played Fantasy League all season. I found this quite easy actually because a few of these players I've had in my fantasy team all season. Yep. So that is why. Yeah, maybe it suited me a little bit because of my interests in that.
I think so, yeah. It should make you a bit of an expert on it. So
this is basically half of your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Now, to be honest, the first one, the goalkeeper's probably a bit left field, but I think he's had a good season. He come into the fold quite late, but my goalkeeper is Angus Gunn.
Yeah.
The Southampton goalie. He's only young. He comes from a football background. I think since he come in, Southampton's results... they did really well, really. What happened with Southampton at the start of the season? That they had, was it Mark Hughes?
Yeah,
and they were really struggling.
Dreadful.
They signed some good players. They've got some good younger players as well, but it just wasn't working for them. Then they bought in Hassan Hüttl from Leipzig, and he put his trust straight in. I know he dropped Fraser Forster straight away, and he continued with, I think it was McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think McCarthy's a good goalkeeper, but then they brought in Angus Gunn, and I know we made a bit of a howler in the last day of the season against Huddersfield for Pritchard to score, but I've only been impressed with him. I think his shot stopping's really strong. I think his distribution's good. He's tall as well, which is always obviously an advantage for goalkeepers, so I think next year he will really be a player to look at, and going forward I think he's in the England fold. I'd be interested to see if he gets a call up going forward. So maybe over the season, he obviously hasn't played much, but I think the last 4 months of the season he showed a lot of potential, and that's why I've put him in my team as my goalkeeper.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think as you said, McCarthy and Gunn kind of. I think Hasenhüttl sort of like flitted between the two of them, sort of unsure of which one to go for. But I remember Angus Gunn when he was at Norwich the season before in the Championship. He was actually really good there. He really kind of strengthened their defence. I don't think their defence was as good as it has been the season just gone. And he was brilliant for them. And I'm glad he's got the step up and managed to play at the level that he's now playing under such a great manager as well, who I think will be looking to give him a permanent shot next season. Who have you got then, Lewis? You got someone slightly different, or
I've got a couple.
Yeah, you've got a couple.
I've got probably what would be a pretty obvious one. Yeah, I've got Jordan Pickford from Everton, and I find it quite impressive how they're outside the top six, but he got the fourth. Well, not literally him, but they got the fourth most clean sheets in the Premier League.
Yeah, him and the defence.
Yeah,
it was a big part of that though.
I thought that was quite impressive, but my second one is the Cardiff City goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but Neil Etheridge.
Yeah.
They got the seventh most clean sheets, and I do remember hearing his name quite a bit.
Yeah, I remember he played. He was a backup at like Fulham, and I think he started at Chelsea way back as well. But yeah, to be honest, I've not actually, for some reason, I've not written him down, but he crossed my mind a few times when I was trying to come up with this list. I think Cardiff, you kind of expected them when they came up with the squad that they have to be, like 100% relegation candidates. And obviously they did go down, but it wasn't as clean cut as people expected. And that was a lot of the time down to their solidity at the back, players like Etheridge, players like Bamba as well, a few other guys in that back line. So I think that's a decent shout, Etheridge. There's one guy who I don't know why you guys haven't gone for him. He's been an absolute rock for me. He's been the best goalkeeper outside the top six, hands down. That's Lucas Fabianski from West Ham.
Oh, that's a good one.
He's not necessarily a sort of cool option in terms of he's a very traditional, old-school keeper. Old-school goal kicks, takes it long. And he's not necessarily the kind of guy who suits a sort of hipster-style team. But I think if you want that reliability at the back, he's added a huge dimension to a defence that has been a little bit shaky. I think we have a few good defenders who maybe a few of us will touch on possibly later on today. But for me, Lucas Fabianski's got to be in with a shout. If we look at a few statistics, I mean, he's really added that stability. He obviously they face more shots, but he has saved. Makes 0.12 saves per goal. That's per 90. And that's better record than David De Gea and also better than Edison as well. Obviously, that is slightly skewed by the fact that West Ham do face more shots than those guys, but it still shows that reliability. I think he was a brilliant pickup for West Ham. Obviously, came in from Swansea when they were relegated at a decent cost as well. And I always think he was someone who was a little bit underrated at Arsenal and really does deserve a shot as a regular. So I'm really glad that he's been able to prove such a steady figure behind that youthful defence at West Ham under Pellegrini. What do you guys think about that suggestion? Do you think Fabianski could be in with a shout?
Yeah, I think that's another name I've actually heard a few times as well. So I think that was a very, very good shout. It's kind of like, I think it's the kind of thing that most people wouldn't go for.
Yeah,
because
I think I've seen it's mainly been like Pickford that I've seen, I think, as the main candidate. I think him being an England number one also sort of helps, but and the fact that Everton are kind of seen as that team who are permanently on the periphery of the top six, I think that kind of went in his favour a bit. I'd say, does anyone think Kasper Schmeichel's in with a shout? I don't think it's necessarily been his best season. I don't think he's been any better really than any of the guys that we've mentioned, but do you think he's potentially in the running as well?
Personally, I wouldn't say he's stood out enough.
No, I don't think so, really.
I think he's kind of like on his level, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think he's kind of just done what's expected of him this season. How do you feel about the rest of the suggestions then, Nick? Do you think your suggestion's still the best out of all of those? Has your mind been changed, or?
Yeah, I think Fabianski was a good shout. And also Etheridge. I did think about Etheridge before. The three I was torn between was Gunn, Etheridge, and Patricio, the Wolves goalie.
So it's a lot of them at the minute. Yeah,
I just don't think I remembered Fabianski because I think Fabianski has had a really good year. In West Ham, they're a bit lightweight at the back, so he does face a lot of shots.
Yeah,
I remember when they played Huddersfield and they conceded 3. So that says enough about West Ham's defence. So yeah, Fabianski's probably a good shout, or Etheridge, probably between the two.
What do you reckon? Are we going to lock in an answer now before we move on to the right back, or are we going to wait till the end? Do you think? What do you think is the best way? I haven't really planned this. What do you think is the best way?
I was going to say, shall we? I think once we go through each position, I think we should lock one in then.
Yeah. So do you want to?
Have we got a way of noting it down as well?
I suppose I could do it on my phone.
Just lock it in, and then we can go back and go through. And if we want to change anything, we can just change it then.
That's a good shout. So who should we say is our goalkeeper then?
I think this is going to be one of the most difficult ones.
I think it could well be. I feel like some positions you've got like 100% player who has to be there, kind of. But I think it is quite open mostly. But yeah, I think goalkeeper's one of the most difficult out of all of them.
I think you could put anyone in that we've mentioned, really.
I think so. I mean, my vote would go to Fabianski. I'd be happy as well to go for Pickford. I'd be happy to go for probably Etheridge or Patricio as well. I'll let you guys discuss as well, and then we can kind of see who the common guy is between the three.
Yeah, I'd go Fabianski.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll go Fabianski.
You think Fabianski?
Yeah.
Okay then, right. Yeah, so we'll say Fabianski then for our goalkeeper. Just a quick reminder, guys. Obviously, we say this every week, and we've got them at the side of your screen on SoundCloud. Just remember that our email address is kickbacksportspod@gmail.com. Instagram and Twitter is at @kickback_pod. We've also got our links to our Facebook and our Patreon as well. Still no donations, but I keep forgetting to shout out the Patreon account. So that's all on the side. And yeah, do donate us some money, and maybe we can make some improvements, get some guests on board hopefully in the future. That would be pretty cool. Just hit us up with any questions, suggestions, feedback, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go on to our right back. I think we'll go across from left to right from the defence. So I'll give this to Lewis first. Who have you got as your right back?
I think there's an obvious one here. But
I think there's I think there's definitely an obvious.
I'm just going to get that out there. Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one I've got is Matt Doherty, and he's another player that I've kind of just been hearing most weeks about how well he's played and how much he's put into this Wolves defence.
I think that's the thing. I think any of that Wolves back line could be in with a shout really for this. In terms of a right back, Wan-Bissaka is the only guy that I've got down. By March, he had made the most successful tackles out of any player in any of Europe's top 5 leagues. So anyone in the top division in England, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain.
I think he's got the second most interceptions in the Premiership as well. Yeah,
his statistics have been absolutely ridiculous. This is a guy who not only has only been playing first team senior football for just over a season, he was playing as a left winger a right winger less than 2 seasons ago as well. So he's moved into a new position. As we find with a lot of fullbacks, do tend to be failed wingers, as I think it's Jamie Carragher said to Gary Neville, which riled him a little bit, but it is the truth. And Wan-Bissaka has just proven that can work really well, because obviously he does have the legs of a winger, but also for a sort of converted winger, he has such an incredible defensive output as well, as I just said with the tackles, and Lewis said as well with the interceptions. For me, he's been absolutely unrivaled, and is potentially the second best right back in the Premier League in the season just gone, behind maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold from the actual PFA team of the season. Do you have anybody else besides Wan-Bissaka, or you might not have him at all, Nick? Or do you think he's the overriding choice?
I didn't have Wan-Bissaka.
Wow.
I had Ricardo Pereira.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ricardo Pereira.
Leicester right back. He got 6 assists last year, 2 goals.
Yeah.
I think the only problem now with fullbacks is that everyone's being compared to the 2 Liverpool fullbacks. 11 and 13 assists in one season is not normal.
This is the thing. Yeah, it depends. I mean, Ricardo Pereira is that different to Wan-Bissaka. Ricardo Pereira is that kind of very attacking, pacey fullback, whereas Wan-Bissaka has much more defensive work to do, and he's much more proficient in that area. Not that Ricardo Pereira is not, but I think they're 2 different fullbacks. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ricardo Pereira as well. I think Leicester are very lucky to have him, because he's one of those players I always think could fill in at a top 6 side. You know, there are some teams, like I think Manchester United could do worse than him. Arsenal could do worse with him as maybe a replacement for Bellerin if these injuries keep persisting. I think Ricardo Pereira is a decent shout. Is there anybody else anyone suggested, or is it mainly Wan-Bissaka and Ricardo Pereira?
I've got Holebas as well. Sorry, Lewis. Watford right back.
Yeah,
I think Holebas is good off the dead ball. He's got a long throw in. He's got things that a lot of right backs don't have. Being a dead ball specialist is good for full backs, because it's not usually positions you associate with dead ball specialists. Like Trippier is also quite good off the dead ball, as we found out last year in the semi-final against Croatia.
Oh yeah.
Holebas is a player I've followed throughout his career. He was a player that
I think he's been brilliant this season. Actually, yeah,
he's been really solid, especially in the FA Cup run. He's been very, very solid for Watford. So maybe a shout out to him, but I don't think he would get into the team.
Can he play as a left back as well?
Yeah, I think he's quite versatile.
I've got him noted down in my left backs actually as like a second choice. But yeah, I think either of those positions, I think he's been brilliant for them, and he's really shown his worth. It's kind of been a breakout season. I know he's not a young player, but it's sort of been a breakout season for him at Watford. But I don't think it's been better than the other suggestions that we've got. So for me, it would be between Wan-Bissaka and Ricardo Pereira. Right, I'm going to ask you guys to just say one name, and then whoever gets the most votes will go for. So Nick, who are you suggesting?
I'd probably go Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, Lewis?
Yeah, Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's already in, but I'd also say Wan-Bissaka as well. Just because I think of those statistics, and being so dominant across all of Europe as well, I think it's been absolutely incredible. Right, so it's time to fill in our centre-back positions next.
I think this could be another one with a lot of...
Yes, I think so. I'll just run through a few of mine first. Connor Cody.
Yep, got him.
Yeah, he's one suggestion. He has scored 3 own goals. That's the only negative statistic, really. He scored the most own goals in the Premier League.
But that can also be quite unlucky as well.
Yeah, 100%. He's been solid. He's actually played every single minute of the Premier League season. He's one of only very few outfield players in the Prem who's actually done that. Obviously, Nuno Espirito Santo is always intent on keeping that stability and keeping the same team as often as possible. I've got a few other guys. Willy Bolly, who's a teammate, obviously, of Cody at Wolves. He's shown to be very tactically intelligent. He's also cropped up with a few goals from set pieces, that kind of thing as well. I've got Fabian Schär from Newcastle. He's been a very interesting one. Great dribbler for a centre-back. So in terms of a modern-day centre-back, he's been very key in build-up play, which has been very good for Newcastle this season. I think they've really benefited from having him in that back line. 7 clean sheets in only 22 games, so not too bad in terms of a record there. And I've also got Shane Duffy as a suggestion from Brighton. It was between him and Dunk. I think they've both had great seasons, actually, but Shane Duffy's had the most clearances and most goal line clearances of the season just gone in the Prem. Another name I've noted down is Issa Diop, but I don't think he's really of the standard this season. I don't think he's really ready to be in a team like this, mainly because I just think the other guys have been more beneficial to their teams. Lewis, do you say you had Connor Cody in there?
Yeah.
Have you got anybody else that I've had, or has it got some other suggestions to chuck into the proverbial hat as well?
That's the only one that I actually had that you had. I've just put in Nathan Ake because I thought he has been quite consistent, but I don't know if he would make it into the first team.
I'm a big fan of Nathan Ake.
I've also gone for Sol Bamba.
Right, yeah.
And I saw that he made, I think it was the most tackles by a defensive player.
Okay.
So I thought that kind of goes with the clean sheets for Cardiff as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think as we were saying about Neil Etheridge before,
so that must
players
have helped.
players like him and Bamba, I think, have been the reason that Cardiff weren't a sort of dead cert 20th position, because they probably have, maybe Huddersfield, but they probably have the worst squad out of the season just gone in the Prem, and they've managed to kind of, scrape down into the bottom 3, which has been a shame for them and a shame for Neil Warnock. But who have you got, Nick? Have you got any of those guys, or people completely different maybe?
I went for Cody.
Cool.
Went for Bamba as well.
I think Cody's a lock now.
I think we should maybe lock in Cody right now. Should we just put Cody in now? Yeah. So we'll say Connor Cody. Who else have you got? Sorry,
I went for Bamba. I think Bamba, even though Cardiff have been relegated, I thought Bamba had a really good season. Yeah, good player at the back. Scored some important goals for them as well. Yeah, and the other one I went for was Kurt Zouma. Everton.
I forgot about him.
I think Zouma's...
I thought he was still at Chelsea.
He's going to go back to Chelsea, a good player, and now that Chelsea can't sign players, and it looks like Luis is going, I think Zouma could slot straight in there, so I thought Zouma, I think, as you said, Everton had a really good year in terms of, they went on that mad run where they didn't concede for 8 or 9 games. I think Zouma was really important during that time. He had Keane next to him, made Keane look a much better player. Keane really struggled when he first went to Everton. Yeah,
he's not really kicked on as much as I thought he had. But yeah, I think, especially after that nightmarish season with Stoke as well, he's really sort of come back from that and proven his worth, as he did when he was first coming into that Chelsea team. I think, was it under Conte?
Yeah.
Or was it? Yeah, it was. I think it was Conte at that point. But yeah, I think there's some good shouts as well. Both gone for Sol Bamba. Do you think he deserves a spot then? Because I'm happy to go for somebody like Sol Bamba. Obviously, that apart from Connor Cody, I think Bamba's the second most common choice out of the 3 of us. So, are you guys happy with putting him in there as well?
Yeah,
I'm happy to pop him in. So, so second centre back is Sol Bamba. We're going to move swiftly on to the left back to just finalise our defensive picks, and then we'll run through the defence quickly before moving on to our midfield. So, Nick, who have you got for your left back? Well, you might have more than one suggestion.
The left back I've gone for is Johnny Otto.
I like that.
The Wolves left back.
Yeah.
Johnny Otto's come in. I think they've signed him on a permanent deal now. I think the 2 full-backs for Wolves, this season. They've taken the Premier League by storm because of how they've played. Wolves have just been attacking in the whole season. I think a lot of that is down to how their system works with the two full-backs.
Yeah.
I know Lewis mentioned Doherty's been important and he has scored more goals than Johnny Otto. But I think going forward, I think Otto's been crucial on that side. Jimenez has scored one of the most goals in the Premier League, and I think he has a lot to thank the two full-backs for in that sense.
I think so, yeah.
I just like how they play. I think their styles, it's fresh, it's nice. It's nice to see teams go away to, Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, and the Etihad, and they play attacking. There's nothing worse than watching a game where you have 11 men behind the ball, and that's what we said before with Stoke and West Brom. They used to be pro at that. It's nice to see a team who've just come up and just go out and attack, and a lot of that was through the wing backs. So, and they've put a newly promoted team and just showed no fear and fair play. They've finished high in the Premier League.
They've been brilliant, yeah,
because of their style, I'd say.
And they've also shown that you can do that and get results against the big teams as well.
Yeah, they had a really solid record against the top six.
Absolutely great against the top six, yeah.
Did they lose 21 in the top six?
I think we beat them twice.
Yeah.
Then I think they didn't draw with everyone else, and then they beat.
I think they beat one of the other top six at least once, maybe. Or they might have drew with Man City at home, 1-1 potentially.
I think
Bolly scored a controversial goal. He scored a handball, didn't he?
Right, yeah, I remember that now. I think Johnny Otto's been great. I think the Wolves team as a whole, I think we can see a lot of candidates coming through from that Wolves team. Obviously, we've suggested Rui Patricio was a name that was that came into the picture when we're talking about the goalkeepers. Connor Cody's made it into this team already.
We've mentioned the whole team, haven't we?
I think so.
Every one of their players.
Oh, yeah. Bolly we mentioned as well, yeah. Doherty as well, Lewis obviously brought up. Who have you got then, Lewis? Have you got Johnny Otto as well?
No, I haven't actually. I've got one of the players that Nick mentioned at right back, but I found out he can play left back, so I put in Ricardo Pereira.
Oh yeah, I think he can. I think he's mainly played on the right, but you can do both. Yeah, definitely.
And I put in Lucas Digne as well because I saw that he wasn't doing outstandingly, but I saw that he was doing well defensively, and I thought once again that's going to contribute to Pickford's clean sheets as well.
That's the shout that I've gone for. Lucas Digne obviously came in. He sort of struggled to live up to the expectations
and he
at Barca.
He came from a big club as well,
yeah.
So there's even more expectation.
I mean, Everton, obviously, they brought in a load of kind of Barcelona rejects, Andre Gomez, Yerry Mina, and Digne as well. And Digne was, a bit of a flop at Barca, having come in from France. And I think he's been absolutely great. He's had four goals, 4 assists as well this season, and just really good at set pieces. So it's good they have someone to take over from Leighton Baines, who's been so good, obviously taking free kicks and such over the last decade or even longer. And he's just been a reliable defensive stalwart as well in that back four for Everton. How do you feel about Digne, Nick? Do you think that's a decent shout, or do you think Johnny Otto could really kind of usurp him?
I like Digne. I do think he's a little bit of a liability, though.
I think he
gets himself into trouble. I always remember when we first signed Alberto Moreno, and it kind of strikes me as a Moreno. Like he offers a lot going forward. He's a good dead ball specialist. I remember he got sent off this season for something silly. I just feel he's a bit of a liability, but I don't think that should tarnish the city. He's had a really good season. He scored quite a few goals as well, and another interesting bit. He's been really good for fantasy players as well, fantasy teams as well. So he's got a lot of points from left back. So yeah, Digne is entitled to be up there, but if I was picking a team, I probably wouldn't put him in because I just think he's a little bit of a liability.
To be honest, I'd be almost 50-50 happy with Johnny or Lucas Digne. What about you, Lewis? Do you think one of them is better, more deserved of this position?
I wouldn't really know who to pick, but I think that considering Otto and the team he's come up with, I think he's probably made more of an impact.
Yeah. So should we put Johnny Otto?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put in Johnny Otto. So we'll just go through who we've got already. So our goalkeeper, we've got Lucas Fabianski from West Ham, Aaron Wan-Bissaka for Crystal Palace at right back, Connor Cody from Wolves, and Sol Bamba from Cardiff at centre back, and then Johnny Otto from Wolves as well at left back. So we're going to go for the 3 central midfielders. So we've not gone for any specific type of 4-3-3. We're sort of just, I think, presuming that these are just 3 midfielders, sort of similar to the position, the style that Liverpool play in, maybe. So we'll run through some of these midfielders. Have you got anyone who is a standout, an obvious pick for you, Lewis?
I don't think any of these would be like absolute standouts.
Yeah.
They're kind of just 5 that I think you could probably make an argument from all of them.
Yeah.
So do you want me to just run through them?
Yeah, just go through it. Just run through all of them, I suppose, yeah.
I've got Declan Rice, Ruben Neves and João Moutinho, and I feel like those 3 have kind of impressed a bit more defensively.
Yeah.
For their teams, and I've also got Sigurdsson, and I just threw in David Brooks as well.
Oh, cool.
I've heard a few things about him this season.
Yeah, we covered David Brooks way back, I think maybe in the third or fourth podcast we did, I think. What about you, Nick? Have you got some of those guys?
I have... No, not one.
No?
Ooh.
I have 4 different ones.
Bit of debate.
Yeah, so there's one I feel that should 100% be in it.
Yeah.
Tielemans. I think Tielemans is better than Leicester. He's a better player than Leicester.
Yeah, he definitely is.
And he's come in January, and he's got so many goals and so many assists. He's played loads of through balls. He's been such a key player for Leicester. I think Tielemans should definitely be in there, and it's quite obvious he's a good player because Barcelona after him, United have been interested, Chelsea, even though they can't sign him, but there's still a link there for some reason.
I think Arsenal as well, maybe.
Exactly. So I think Tielemans is just playing at a level that is beyond Leicester.
It's a really weird move. Like, I don't get how they managed to get him on loan from Monaco. It's a really strange one for me. But yeah, I don't know why. Like, Tielemans is he's actually one of my favourite sort of young midfielders coming up, especially seeing him in the Prem has been even more exciting. I think the only reason I didn't put him in is because he came in January. I think I kind of overlooked him and was kind of looking at just the guys who have been about all season. But I think if you're judging on kind of, just the quality that they've had in the time that they've played, I think Tielemans is more than deserving of a shout. The guys that I've gone for James Maddison, who I think for me is right up there in terms of players who have made a step up from a Championship club to a Premier League club so seamlessly. He's been absolutely incredible. He had over 100 chances created this season, which is more than any other Premier League player. Incredible work rate. I think that midfield transition from midfield to attack is nowhere near as stable without him in that squad. I've also got João Moutinho, who I think Lewis suggested, 8 assists. Also just proven to be very sensible midfielder, a bit of a veteran, just provided a bit of stability in the centre of the park for them. I've got Ruben Neves as well as a shout. And I've also got Doucouré from Watford. The only statistic I've written down for him is that he's covered the 9th furthest distance out of any player. So he is a persistent runner, tireless work rate as well in that midfield, Abdoulaye Doucouré for Watford. How do you feel about Tielemans then, Lewis? Do you think he is as important to Leicester as Nick has said, and do you think that he's so deserving of a position in this team?
I think he would be, because when the amount of... Because I haven't seen him like a lot, but when I have seen him, he's been performing well, and I have heard his name a couple of times as well. He's doing very well for me on my career mode currently as well. He's like 92 rated or something, so I'll get that in there, as is Ricardo Pereira. But not really relevant to anything. Tielemans, I think I'd be really happy to pop him in there. What do you guys feel about James Maddison as well? Because I think he's kind of like... I know he's more of a number 10, but if we're playing with a midfield 3, I think he could step back a little bit and be the more attacking force out of a midfield 3. For me, he has to be in this team, but obviously if you guys don't agree, then we can't pop him in. How do you feel about him?
I forgot about Maddison. I think Maddison's been important. Where I work, I speak to a Norwich fan. And he, a few years ago, did say to me, said he'll be the next best thing in the Premier League. Probably quite isn't that yet, but no. I know they thought a lot of him at Norwich, and it's obviously looking like it's worked out, because he's actually a local lad. He started his career with Coventry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he worked his way over to Norwich, and now he's at Leicester. So, I think Maddison's been crucial to them, and I have seen that statistic where he's created the most chances or something like that.
Yeah.
I might have seen that on Sky. So, yeah, I think Maddison's a good shout. I think he's had a really good season. He's only a young head on. Yeah, a young head on. It seems like on an experienced body at the moment. It seems like he's been around for ages, but
I know.
22,
he's still learning. He's still got a couple
22,
of nasty bits to his game, the diving, the simulation side of that.
Yeah.
But he's still a young lad, so we can put that down to his age and probably inexperience. So I think Maddison's a really good shout.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So do you reckon Tielemans is locked in?
Yeah.
Do you reckon Maddison?
Yeah,
possibly.
I'd be willing to put Maddison.
I had a bit of sass in my voice. I was like, "Do you reckon Maddison?" If we're going for a Tielemans and we're going for a Maddison, what sort of midfielder do you think we need to make up the three?
A defensive midfielder.
More of a defensive one. Yeah,
I was going to say that. Yeah.
I think I'll probably let. Obviously, we've had kind of one that was mainly Nick's suggestion, one that was mainly my suggestion. Who do you think out of yours, Lewis? Who do you think's the kind of guy to put in the defensive duties?
I would either say Neves or Moutinho, and
I'd be happy with either. Yeah,
I would probably go with Moutinho because he's kind of the more experienced one, and he was kind of coming in from Monaco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he kind of had, I think he had a bit more to prove because he's getting a bit older as well.
Yeah, I think especially with Tielemans and Maddison, you've got quite a young midfield there. So I think to add like an experienced head like Moutinho in there, I think Neves is still 21, 22.
Yeah.
As are Tielemans and Maddison as well, are all like quite a similar age. So I think Moutinho is a good shout. I think how old is Moutinho? Is he in his 30s yet?
I think he's like 32, 33, something like that.
Yeah, I think to put that experience in there would really be beneficial to those two guys as well. How do you feel about that, Nick? Do you think that's a guy to put in there, João Moutinho?
Yeah, I just noticed I had Moutinho as well, so I think all three of us had him. Just on a side note, I don't agree with Neves at all. I'm not having Neves. I don't think Neves had a very good year. I think he set such a high standard last year in the Championship. Victor Camarasa, for me, at Cardiff, had a better season than Ruben Neves did at Wolves.
I think that's a fair shout, like 100%. I think, it would be Moutinho for me over Neves. I think Neves having been a player who, was the next best thing in Portuguese football a while back, was playing in the Champions League, linked to all kinds of clubs around Europe, the top teams. I think he's really kind of dropped off. He's been good, but he's not been as good. He's not really done anything that warrants the links to Man City that are still cropping up here, there and everywhere. I completely agree. I think Camarasa actually is a really good left field shout, as I would like to call it. I think Camarasa has been great for Cardiff.
A little bit on Camarasa as well. He's already said he won't be going back to Cardiff next year in the Championship. Yeah. He's available for 17 million from Betis, and it looks like Wolves and West Ham are the two teams who are going to look at him. But maybe for our later segment, Villa, that it's not a player I've mentioned in that segment, but I think maybe Villa should keep an eye on him. They need somebody in that middle when Whelan and these sort of players drop away.
Definitely,
So I think Camarasa would suit Villa's style.
Yeah, 100%. I'd be more than happy to have Camarasa. I think, he's an ideal player for kind of, your mid-table and lower sort of sides, kind of like anyone from 10th below, really, I think would be a great pickup. I think that's a really good shout. So do you think we're going to stick with Tielemans, Maddison, Moutinho as a midfield three?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'll be happy with that as well. Yeah.
We'll move on then to our attacking three. We'll go for our right winger first. I'm going to hand over to... I think I'll hand over to Nick. I can't remember. I was trying to do it in order, but I don't know where I've got to. I'll just give it to Nick for this one. Who have you got for right wing?
Jose Perez.
Yeah, I like that. I've not got him, but now you've said it,
I think
I like it.
The last probably third of the season, apart from maybe Aguero, Sterling, maybe one of the Liverpool fullbacks, has probably not been a better player in the Premier League than Jose Perez. If you look at he was on one goal in Feb, and he ended the season, I think, on 10 or 11.
He'd score a hat-trick.
He did, didn't he? He did in a big game. So I think it was a bit of a lower table clash, and I think he got a hat trick at home. So I'd say maybe not for the whole season, because he did have a quiet first half of the season. But you know what? You want your players to come out and play when you need them. At the business end of the season, your players need to step up. And Rondon and Perez are two examples of two players who definitely did step up. And I think you mentioned Fabian Schär as well. Yeah, I know Fabian Schär was in Garth Brooks' team of the year, the BBC pundit. People were saying, why is he now? You know what? I thought fair play, because I think he has had a really good season. So maybe Perez, just on the basis of how important it's been in the last probably 3 or 4 months.
I like that. What about you, Lewis? Is there anybody different?
This is the position that I probably struggled with most. So
I struggled quite a bit as well.
I threw kind of these two players in because they are kind of like the players that I remember hearing about a lot. And I've got Deulofeu and Jota. Yeah. Those are my two right wingers.
I think they're pretty good suggestions. Deulofeu was a guy who I've been thinking about whilst doing this, but I haven't actually written him down for some reason. But Deulofeu, I think, has had a great season, because he's always been one of those players who's kind of...
He came from a big team. So
he's played for Barca, he's played for Everton, he's played for AC Milan. He's kind of been everywhere.
I feel like people have kind of forgotten about him a bit ever since he's left Barca.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I think he's been crucial. I mean, Javi Gracia for Watford is, he's been in a lot of people's thoughts in terms of the manager of the season in the Prem, because of what he's managed to get out of a Watford side who are, not really too good. In a lot of areas, you would have thought that they would be kind of relegation candidates, having players like Mariappa in their defence and Cathcart. Those sorts of level of players don't really seem like Premier League talent, but Deulofeu has been part of a team who has, kind of exceeded expectations, definitely this campaign. I've gone for Richarlison as well. He's the guy that I've kind of put in. I think he's played a little bit as a striker as well, in the absence of kind of like a regular starting striker for Everton at parts of the season. But I think Richarlison has really sort of shown that he can make that little step up from Watford to Everton, which, really this season hasn't been a huge step up, but he's kind of proven that he can fill in as a striker as well. How do you guys... Do you think Richarlison's a good shout? I mean, we've all had different suggestions, which I think is really interesting, and I think they're all really good suggestions. Some of them I probably should have noted down here. But who do you think's the overriding right winger that we can lock in?
On a side note, I'd say Redmond as well has had a pretty good season for Southampton. I know Hassan Hall's put a lot of faith in him, and I know he's now in the England squad for the Nations League, so I think that shows his career's going in the right way, as after years and years of saying he's got a lot of potential. I mean, when he played for Blues and he was the next best thing, and it kind of just never worked out for him.
Yeah.
So maybe Redmond probably not quite deserving of getting in the team, but I'd say he's one to keep an eye on for next season.
Yeah.
But if I was picking out the three, I think Deulofeu's had a good season. I think Deulofeu scored that important goal against Wolves in the FA Cup semi-final as well.
Still don't know how he did that.
No, that was such a majestic goal. So, in terms of raw ability, raw talent, I'd probably go for Deulofeu.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I would probably vote for Deulofeu out of any of these guys. Would you as well, Lewis, or would you go for, maybe Jota or someone else like that?
I probably would go for Deulofeu as well.
Yeah, we'll put him in then as our right winger. Rather than going left to right, I think this time we'll go over to the other side. So we'll go left wing first, and then we can conclude on that striker role. As a left winger, I'll put forward my suggestions first. I've got one who I think isn't necessarily... I think he's kind of overhyped slightly, but I do still think he's had a very good season. That's Wilfried Zaha. Obviously at Crystal Palace, he's always seen as this guy who is way too good to be at Crystal Palace and should be playing for... a better team. We've seen him linked with everything from return to United. I've seen him linked with Dortmund, I think, last summer. I've seen him linked with Arsenal recently as well. And he's always been a guy for me who I think, he's been absolutely brilliant. Obviously, people thought he'd blown his chance when he was at United, and then that didn't quite work out for him. I don't think he's as good as people say he is, but I think he would be more than worthy of a place in this team. And the other guy that I've gone for is the smallest guy in the Premier League, Ryan Fraser from Bournemouth.
Got him as well.
Yeah.
Second most assists in the Premiership.
Exactly. For me, I mean, I think that if you're a guy who's not really looked into it too much, I think Wilfried Zaha would be the obvious guy to go for. But looking more statistically, Ryan Fraser, for me, has been overall the most deserving out of anyone for this left-wing position. What do you guys think?
I think the thing is with Zaha, I think he's one of those players that plays better when he's on kind of like an average Premier League team.
That's the thing. Like I personally I like him as a player, but I don't see him.
I don't think he'll work. I don't think he'll work out on like a top 6 team. No. I think he's better to be at somewhere like Crystal Palace.
I don't think this is necessarily his ceiling. I don't think this is the best club he could be at in terms of he could probably go abroad and fit into a big team.
He could probably go to a team like Wolves or West Ham, somewhere like that.
That sort of level, he could probably do pretty well. A club, who have maybe a bigger ceiling, bigger financial clout in the market, and can maybe build a slightly better team for him to progress in. Nick, how do you feel about Zaha, and what are your suggestions for the left wing role?
I like Zaha. I think Zaha's a good player. He's a tricky player. It's everything about the modern play. There's a new side to the game now, where it's a showboating side, and he's definitely the pinnacle of showboating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Zaha. I do think Ryan Fraser would be more deserving of the spot. I would be inclined to go with Fraser because of his scoring record and his assist record. But again, another player to keep an eye on would be Dwight McNeil.
Yes.
The Burnley winger. He's had a monumental season for his age.
Brilliant.
He scored a lot of important goals. He's tall, he's quick, he's tricky. Might get a big move this summer, if not this summer, next summer. So another player to keep your eye on. Probably won't get into this team, but
maybe next season. If not this season, then maybe next season. It could be the shining light for Burnley, because I can sort of see him struggling a little bit. Did you have anyone besides Fraser, Lewis?
I did actually have someone else. And
exciting.
I thought, to be honest, I would say Fraser. But if I was going to pick a backup, I put down Felipe Anderson.
Wow. How have I not remembered Felipe Anderson?
To be honest, I didn't actually remember. I didn't remember Felipe Anderson myself. I think I was going through like the through balls, or
I think I'd say Felipe Anderson now. How did I forget it? Oh, that's mental.
I actually saw Felipe Anderson. I was looking through some of the statistics, and I saw him a couple of times, and I was like, how did I forget him?
Yeah. How have I forgotten him as well? For me, unlike Zaha, Felipe Anderson is one of those guys who I think could fit in at most top teams across Europe. I think Bayern Munich could do with him. I think there are a lot of other teams really who could do with a guy in that position.
I've just thought we haven't mentioned him in Transfer Window Waffle at all.
No, either. I don't know why. He's one of those guys that for some reason I always forget about him, and then when I remember about him, I'm like, wow, it's Felipe Anderson.
Kind of like flies under the radar.
Yeah, I don't know why. For me, it would be between Ryan Fraser and Felipe Anderson. Now that you've said Felipe Anderson, I'd probably go for him. But I'm happy to leave it for you guys too, so you vote ahead.
Can we have 2 left wingers?
Maybe we can. Yeah. Right, who does your vote go for?
I don't know either.
No. Right, Nick, we'll have the voice of reason.
I think they're both equally as impressive.
Yeah, I think that's Ryan Fraser, has sort of excelled in a team with a smaller budget, with fewer resources. Well, my throat's squeaking a little bit. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think Ryan Fraser is definitely deserving of it. But Felipe Anderson, for me, has just been, he's been more crucial to West Ham, because I don't think West Ham have had the season that we expected.
Especially since Payet left as well.
Yeah, definitely.
After he had that amazing season.
He had an incredible season, yeah. Nick, how do you feel about Felipe Anderson, or do you think Ryan Fraser's still the guy?
Ryan Fraser for me. I like Anderson, good player. I do feel like we have mentioned him once. Maybe Real Madrid. I do feel like he's been mentioned once.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I don't think
rings a bell. Maybe we might have done.
But I think it must have been one of you two, because I don't think I've mentioned him.
I feel like I've mentioned him, but I don't know.
I was going to say,
now that you said that, I think you might have done.
I looked at Felipe Anderson and I was like, have we even mentioned him? And because I didn't
don't know
remember.
why I didn't think of him for this.
Yeah.
To be fair, not to cheat, but just to kind of see what other people have said, I looked up, like an XI, like a team of the season for outside the top 6 for this season, and no one had Felipe Anderson on there, which is, for me, is absolutely insane.
Very under the radar.
For me, he's a top 6 player playing for a team outside the top 6, so therefore, he surely has to go. It has to be in with a shout. But yeah, Ryan Fraser, I'm more than happy to pop Ryan Fraser in. Should we go for Ryan Fraser? Yeah. We seem all happy with him. Striker time.
Strikers. I put striker dash centre forward because I think I might have a centre forward in.
I'll hand over to you first, actually. Okay. Yeah. Who have you got?
Okay.
I feel like there's a few obvious guys.
I've got Raul Jimenez, and I think the fact that he's got 7 assists, 13 goals. I think especially
record.
I think especially considering Wolves have just come up, that's a brilliant record.
Yeah.
I got also Callum Wilson from Bournemouth, 14 goals. I think.
Yeah,
especially for Bournemouth, that is a pretty good record. But
I think he's got nine assists as well.
Yeah,
Callum Wilson. Yeah,
the obvious choice for me though was Jamie Vardy.
I think this was what I was on about at the start. About it's quite a boring candidate because obviously he had that insane season when they won the league, and he's kind of been in a steady. He's kind of been doing steadily worse. I think every season since.
I think he's dropped off a bit from that season, but I think he's kind of stayed at that level.
Yeah,
so
he's kind of plateauing a little bit now.
I think
he's
18,
didn't he? 18 goals.
18 goals, 5th overall.
That's the thing, yeah. Like, if you're looking at a striker as a source of goals, you can't really overlook Jamie Vardy. I've actually got exactly the same 3 suggestions as Lewis. Callum Wilson, Raul Jimenez and Jamie Vardy. Callum Wilson, 14 goals and 9 assists, and Bournemouth finished 14th. They actually scored the most goals, Bournemouth, out of any club outside of the top 6.
You know what they say though, great minds think alike.
Yeah, definitely. That is true. I think these have to be the 3 main guys. I would personally argue Callum Wilson just because of that output with the assists as well, and the fact that I think he's overcome a lot of injury problems, and I think that Leicester City have more talent around Vardy. In terms of Maddison, in terms of Ndidi, Tielemans, Pereira, those guys, whereas Bournemouth don't necessarily have that quality at their disposal all around the field. Nick, who have you got? Have you got the same sort of people? I feel like if we look at sheer goals and assists, they're the 3 outstanding guys. Is there anybody else who you've thought of as well?
No, I only had a one-man list for this. I didn't even put anyone else down.
Okay.
I had Jimenez. I don't think there's any player in the Premier League like Jimenez. I think
that's a fair point.
I think Wolves have got to steal the amount of money they've paid for him from Benfica.
Yeah, it was a tiny fee, wasn't it?
Wait, this is the first. I think isn't this the first time we've all had the same person?
I think so. I think it might be the first time.
Yeah.
We all
had Coda.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Second time then.
And it's the same team as well.
Yeah.
It was quite hard to avoid Wolves with this because Wolves have had one of those seasons. So, for me, whenever I was doing my fantasy team, the only player who stayed in the whole season was Raul Jimenez. And I knew before this season the sort of player he was. I just didn't think he'd do as well as he has done.
I didn't as well.
For me, I think Jimenez has probably been Wolves next to Coda. He's probably been their most important player. He scored in all platforms. He scored in the FA Cup, he scored in the Carabao Cup, he scored in the Premier League, and it'll be really important from next year in Europe if they decide to dedicate their time to it. So I didn't even Vardy, as you said, he's surrounded by talented players. I think anyone who can finish a goal could have done what Vardy's done. I don't think he's had an amazing season.
We've seen like Slimani and Iheanacho completely fail. So I think Vardy, I think he offers a lot more than their other attacking options. But I think, they have had quality, and now that they've brought Brendan Rodgers in, I think,
and also Vardy's got that experience as well.
Yeah,
I think you notice a common trend with Leicester's strikers. If you look at Okazaki, Ibora when he come in as well, Iheanacho, Slimani. The way Leicester play, they don't play with 2 forwards, they play with 1 forward, so it's difficult for a forward to come in because they know they're not going to be the top dog.
Didn't they under Ranieri? I seem to remember them playing with Vardy and Okazaki. But then apart from that,
Okazaki's always been a bit time player for them. He's never been a season starter, has he, for Leicester?
So Jamie Vardy in terms of his goals, more than happy. My candidate would be Callum Wilson, but I'm literally it's difficult in a way because I'm like almost equally happy to go for any of the three guys.
I'm with George. I'd be happy if any of these guys are in.
We'll just leave it to Nick then.
Again,
that's the easy way out. Who are you saying? Do you want to put Raul Jimenez in there then?
I genuinely believe Raul Jimenez has been in the top 5 players of the Premier League, so I think it'd be an injustice for him not to be in the team.
Yeah,
injustice.
Strong words. So that concludes that segment for now. Our team we've got is Fabianski, Wan-Bissaka, Cody, Bamba, Johnny Otto, Tielemans, Maddison, Moutinho, De La Feu, Jimenez and Fraser. So I'm just going to quickly say, where is this team finishing in the Premier League?
That is a good one.
5th.
I was going to say, I think they would finish in. I think they would finish around.
I'd say
the
5th,
6th
actually.
position. I think they would finish around.
I think they'd sort of be Europa League.
They're better than Arsenal, is all I'll say.
Yeah, I'd say they are better than Arsenal. I think that's definitely right. I think
is that kind of a tiny shot saying they're also better than United, but you just didn't want to say
probably are.
Everyone's better than United.
I think Villa will fit. Hot take: Villa are going to finish above United next season. Just take that away and do what you will with it.
To be honest, I think Wolves have a better chance of doing that.
Well, yeah, no, I think Wolves do. To be
we
honest,
nearly could have mentioned United in this thing, couldn't we? With only one place off.
Yeah, that's very true. Maybe next season I
can't think of any players who'd have got into it, but we could have mentioned some United players.
Fair
point. I don't even maybe De Gea. That's pretty it.
No,
but
probably terrible second half of the season.
By his standards, he's had a terrible half of the season. Yeah. So yeah, I think round about 5th or 6th. We think they'll finish sort of Europa League position. Do you reckon?
Yeah, Europa League maybe just about miss out.
So. Let us know where you think our team will finish, or would finish rather, in the Premier League. And do remember to just get to us on any of those social accounts or email with your alternative team of the season, players outside the top 6. So I hope you've enjoyed that segment. We're going to be moving on now to our second segment. It's Transfer Window Waffle. We're going to be covering my beloved Aston Villa. Obviously came up through the playoffs, beating Derby on Monday afternoon. So here we go, it's Transfer Window Waffle. So it's back, it's Transfer Window Waffle. It might be the final one, it might be the penultimate one, we don't know. The transfer window's obviously open, it is up and running now, so we might have to wind this in a little bit because, you know, it'll be disrupted by actual transfers genuinely taking place, rather than just speculation as it is throughout the rest of the season. But we are doing Aston Villa. Made this decision at the last minute. It was actually Nick's idea. So obviously we got promoted back to the Premier League through the playoff final, beating Derby County 2-1. It's going to be an important summer for Villa. Very good squad. Possibly the best squad in the Championship. I'll let the other guys debate that because I'm not too sure whether I'm being a bit biased. But it's very important for a number of things to happen. We need to not do a Fulham. We need to have a bit of a balance in the squad. But because I am the Aston Villa supporter, I'm going to hand it over to Nick and Lewis first because I kind of just interested to see what kind of suggestions they have. They probably haven't necessarily been following Villa as closely as I have, being a fan, and obviously they're not been in the top flight, but as the fact that they're a local side, you do hear little bits and bobs about them and see bits of games as well. So I'm going to hand over to Lewis first, I think. I'll hand over to Lewis. Who have you got potential signings for Villa? What positions do we need to strengthen in? And who have you gone for?
Well, I don't really know anything about Villa, so
exactly.
There's nothing on the rumours as well. So we
haven't been linked to many players really.
This makes it even more difficult. But I saw this is probably all three of mine are just left field. But
okay,
I saw quite a young player.
Yeah,
he has been linked with some other clubs, like some of the big clubs, and he's called Carlos Rodriguez.
Okay, who's he play for?
I feel like it's in the Mexican league.
Right. The name rings a bell.
I think getting someone like him, a good young player, but he doesn't really cost that much. It's only a few million.
Yeah,
so I think
suppose
that would probably be a bit more
What sort of position is he in? Is he in
depth side? He's literally just a centre mid, and he can play attacking midfield as well.
Okay, so yeah, he'll be a good sort of alternative to Jack Grealish or Hourihane going into that sort of slightly more advanced midfield role. What other positions are there anywhere that sort of stands out to you? Have you just gone for three left field guys?
I've just gone for three left field guys.
That's
okay,
fair enough.
This next
it's
one,
not my job. Mine are pretty left field as well, but yeah.
This next one, I don't think it'll happen. But
yeah,
I think because Fulham have gone down, you could try and get Ryan Sessegnon.
Yeah,
but I think the problem is with that, he'll either go to a higher club,
yeah,
or they'll be asking too much from him because he is worth 31.5 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think Villa have got meant to be around a £50 million budget.
So if you were going to get him, that would be the only
that we'd probably blow the whole thing on him. I think obviously his stock has decreased, having not had the most successful season in the Prem, and obviously been relegated straight back down to the Championship.
So you could get him for 30 million.
But yeah, I mean, we might see sort of discounts coming for some of these Fulham players. There are a lot of very good Fulham players who with very good like underlying numbers as well, who would be great for sort of your lower half. Maybe even some top half teams to pick up some of these guys. Who's the third player you've gone for as well?
Okay, this is literally left field, but I had to look at the players who were out of contract, and I thought if you could like nick someone like Daniel Sturridge, I think that would be a very good signing. But I think then
he's a Villa fan as well, actually, Sturridge.
Yeah, and I think the problem might be the wages there
as
well, depending on how much you can pay him. But I think, considering also he hasn't really played that much for Liverpool over the past few years.
A bit of an injury crisis, a walking injury crisis, basically, and Daniel Sturridge. If he can walk.
He did go out on loan a few seasons ago to West Brom as well.
West Brom, yeah.
So
I think he was ruled out through injury there, and then they ended up getting relegated because they didn't really have a decent attack.
It doesn't... that just shows that he's not really in Liverpool's plans, so they're probably not going to be too bothered about that either.
Okay, Nick, who have you gone for? Have you gone for some household names, or are they similarly sort of slightly left field suggestions?
I feel like Villa are at a transition phase where they need to look forward. They need to bring in some players who are a bit younger, who are going to take them to the next level in the Premier League.
Yeah.
So I've gone not really young players. I've gone for players who are probably hitting their peak in the next few seasons. So the first one I'll say is one that we know about, and it's just you've had him on loan. You need to get him on a permanent deal with Tyrone Mings. I feel that's essential. That's an essential bit of business.
Yeah,
I know. Bournemouth have signed the Bristol City centre back, so maybe that's paved the way for Mings to move to Villa. The other three players I've got is Neil Maupay, the Brentford striker.
Same. I've got him.
I've got Maupay because I know Dean Smith knows a lot about him. He's a good goal scorer. He's a threat. He's dangerous in front of goal. He's scored quite a few goals over the last 3 years in the Championship, so I think he's ready to take the next step up to the Premier League.
Yeah.
On the Fulham side of things that you just spoke about, Lewis, I looked at Mitrovic as a possible. I just don't know if he'd suit Villa's play, so I was a bit dubious to put him in, but I think he might be available. I know Mitrovic won't want to be playing in the Championship next year. I think he's got his sights set back on the Premier League.
Yeah.
And the last player I've gone for is Bradley Dack.
Yeah.
So Bradley Dack plays for Blackburn. He used to play for Gillingham, I believe.
I think he did, yeah.
He's only born in '93, so he's not old.
About 25.
Yeah, scores loads of goals. He's played in a Blackburn team who've struggled all season. It's been the shining light for them, and again, I think he's worth a chance. You could probably get him at 5 or 8 million.
Yeah.
8 million quid. I think he'll be worth it. So I think you've got to look for the Championship for deals now. I think the money you're paying the Premier League, you can add 5 million, 10 million onto the players.
Yeah.
And I think the fact you've played against them gives you an advantage. There's also players like Joe Lolly who could probably come in and do a job for them.
He is a player that I've actually seen linked over the last couple of days, and I think he's also a Villa fan.
Yeah, I know he's a Brummy. I don't know if I think I've heard he's a Villa fan as well.
I remember when we played Forest and during that 5-5 draw earlier in the season, Joe Lolly either scored or assisted every single one of their 5 goals. He's been incredible for Nottingham Forest, and Bradley Dack as well. I remember the YouTube channel The Villa View, which is basically like the leading Villa fan channel, do fan cams, etc. Matt Lynch, when he was a presenter for them, he suggested Bradley Dack. Maybe I think it might have been 2 summers ago, and he's still that link is still there, because I think he'd still be just as useful to Villa as he would have been back then. For me, as a Villa fan, I've seen sort of firsthand. I think this is the case with teams that come up through the playoffs. It does need that extra level of team spirit, that extra sort of togetherness, and I think it's a bit of a cliche to say that is such an important part of football, but I think it is for a team who have had such a long season together and they've managed to come up through the playoff final. So I think to keep hold of the players that we've got on loan would be absolutely incredible. Tyrone Mings has been an absolute titan since he came in from Bournemouth in January. Why they haven't been using him is beyond me. He is ideal as sort of like a modern centre-back. It just strides forward to the halfway line and makes those pinpoint passes to the midfielders or to the attackers. He's been absolutely brilliant at that. We've also obviously got Tammy Abraham on loan from Chelsea. Chelsea, obviously they can't sign anybody, so it'll be difficult for them. It'll be difficult probably for us to keep Tammy Abraham. But for me, if there is that possibility of signing Tammy Abraham on a permanent, then do everything we can to get him. I think it might be 30 mil roundabout. So I think that would be my ideal signing, just to firstly obviously have that stability, but I think now is the time for him to step up into the Prem. I don't think he was quite ready when he was at Swansea. Obviously keep hold of Grealish, which for me is looking more likely now that we have been promoted. I think if we'd lost to Derby in that playoff final, Grealish would have moved to a Premier League side. Anwar El Ghazi as well, who was absolutely incredible, probably our best player in that playoff final. He's on loan from Lille, the winger, and I think there is an option to buy in the contract. It's basically seeming like he is staying. He said he wants to stay, so hopefully we'll be able to wrap that one up. And the other one is Axel Tuanzebe from Manchester United. Obviously he's been on loan at Villa now for a season and a half, really bedded himself in as a starting centre-back this season. Had a few injuries under Steve Bruce, but it's been great. So we can keep hold of as many of those guys as possible. For me, that is ideal. But first and foremost, El Ghazi, I really love him. He's got Champions League experience whilst he was at Ajax. He's played at a great level. He's great at just whipping a ball in. So if we have a tall, imposing striker, someone of Tammy Abraham's calibre there, that will be incredible. But I'll go for a few guys as well. I've got 2 suggestions. Well, I've got Neil Mopai, who Nick put forward, the Brentford striker who played under Dean Smith. But I've also got a left-back, and a central defensive midfielder. Now, we have actually got a new fullback called Frederick Gilbert. He plays for Caen. We signed him in January and loaned him straight back out till the end of the season. So he'll be teaming up with Villa during pre-season. And I believe he can play right back or left back. But I have gone for a left back to act as possibly a first choice. I think Neil Taylor's improved, but we maybe need a new first choice left back. I'm not too happy with this shout, but I've put Joe Bryan in there. He's obviously been relegated with Fulham. We were very, 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 very close, I believe, to signing him last summer. And then Fulham kind of pipped us to the post right at the last minute. And I've also got a guy called Gislon Conan. This is my left field shout. He plays for Rennes in Ligue 1, and he is a very sort of attacking-minded fullback, left back. And I think he would be great for Villa as well. Have you guys got any fullback suggestions, anything like that?
I did with Sessegnon.
Yeah,
that was literally
is that just Sessegnon?
Left field, yeah.
I think it's a strange one because I think we're ageing in the right back department. We've got Alan Hutton, who's mid-30s. El Mohammadi's, I think, 31, 32. So we do need someone in there, but I think Gilbert will probably start in that right back position. Central defensive midfielder. That's also somewhere where we are massively ageing. Glenn Whelan and Mile Jedinak, both into their mid-30s. You can get away with that in the Championship, but probably not in the Prem. We have been playing without a defensive midfielder on occasion, playing Hourihane and McGinn just behind Jack Grealish. But I've suggested a guy called Okay Yokuzlu. He is a young Celta Vigo central defensive midfielder. He's Turkish. Very technically gifted, very tall, imposing central defensive mid. 2.6 aerial dual wins per 90, which is the third best in the entire La Liga. Very good at disrupting opposition, being an annoyance to the attackers, just intercepting and blocking the balls before they get into the defensive areas, so shielding the centre-backs. He also has an 86% pass accuracy. He has been linked with West Ham and Spurs, so it might be that a slightly better club will go in for him, but I think if Villa can get him, it will be absolutely incredible. Pardon me. I've also gone for Philip Billing as a potential suggestion. So, where do you think are the main positions that Villa need to strengthen, guys? Do you think there's any outstanding positions?
I think a forward's imperative. As I said, I don't think you'll keep Abraham because of Chelsea's
sadly, I don't think we will.
So I think a forward's imperative.
Yeah.
I'd probably look at the players I've said, but I think Morphy would be a good idea. Maybe Mitrovic, I don't know. As I said, I'm a bit dubious to mention Mitrovic.
Yeah.
So I'd say forwards is essential. I think you're right with the full-backs. I think you're quite an ageing team, and potentially a goalkeeper. Yeah. It doesn't look like Steer's going to sign on, does it? So I'm
not sure. Well, I mean, we've signed, I think, 3 goalkeepers over the last 2 transfer windows. We signed Andre Moreira on loan from Atletico. We signed Lovre Kalinic, and we also signed Orhan Newland as well, who's been just riddled with injury and was a little bit shaky. He did start as our sort of starting goalkeeper at the start of the season, but since then Jed Steer's come into the fold. I'm hoping he can stay Jed Steer, and I'm hoping that maybe we can give him a bit of a run as a goalkeeper, sort of first choice keeper in the Prem, but he doesn't have an awful lot of experience, so it would be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, for me it is really central defensive mid. I think centre-back we will struggle if we don't keep hold of Mings and or Tuanzebe. I think Tuanzebe is apparently part of Solskjaer's plans for Man United next season, maybe as a backup to their first choice central defenders. So yeah, it's really dependent on whether we manage to wrap up these players on permanent deals. Who do you think we can lock in then? Is there anyone who's a dead cert who we can put in here?
I think that we both mentioned Morpay, so I think that was seems to be. I think it seems to be a viable option as well. It's a player who seems to be he's going to be available.
Yeah,
and the fact that he got the Dean Smith connection with him as well, I think that speaks volumes. So I think Morpay or Ollie Watkins, either of the two you could find will go to Villa.
Ollie Watkins would be great
in the summer, but I'd say Morpay because you need to cover the position, whereas you don't with Ollie Watkins. Obviously a winger, and your wingers are probably 2 of your strongest positions.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we keep El Ghazi and we, Andre Green keeps progressing, hopefully as well. Adoma though is aging, so maybe. We'll just have to see what happens there. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, behind Tammy Abraham, we only have Jonathan Codger and Keenan Davis as well. Jonathan Codger probably not really Premier League standard. He scored 19 in his first season for Villa, but since then scored 1 last season and 5 this season, just gone. He has been troubled by an awful number of injuries, but he's never really got back to that first season quality where he managed to score 19. Yeah, Mopai, I like Mopai as a player. I think I'd be a little bit worried if he was our kind of only striker, first choice striker option going into the season, simply because he's not been tested at this level at all. I think maybe someone like Mitrovic would add that extra level of stability, and you can almost guarantee goals out of him. I know he didn't succeed at Newcastle, but I'd probably feel a little bit safer. Lewis, who do you think we should be definitely putting into this list?
To be honest, I can't really think of
dry throat.
I can't really think of anyone really that stands out a lot because I don't know a lot about the players you're saying, but I think it would be a good idea for them to see kind of who's running out of contract and who they could realistically go for, because I did have a good look down the the contracts that are running out. And I think there were a couple of players that I saw that I thought they could go for.
Yeah, there's a few there, definitely. But I think it's one of those things, it's quite a difficult one to do for a club coming up from the Championship, because you do have that number of loan players.
You have to replace them as well.
Yeah, it's whether you can keep them on permanent deals. I think Tyrone Mings, for a player who has no connection at all to Villa before signing, the passion he's shown, he's been like really, really, really loyal to the cause, and has been like one of the players who seems the most passionate out of anyone, and he's been brilliant. So if we can wrap him up, I think he'd be more than happy to sign. Same with El Ghazi as well. He seems to love playing for the club, from the interviews I've seen of him and just the passion he puts in on the field. Abraham obviously less likely, so that might be a position that we will have to fill. And then obviously we've got some other guys in on loan in Axel Tuanzebe, who Courtney Hawes as well, or House, depending on how you pronounce it, on loan from Wolves. He's been really good. So if we keep hold of Tyrone Mings, I think maybe then go in for Courtney Hawes as a first choice centre back. I don't think Tuanzebe will be as easy to get out of Man United as Hawes would be to get out of Wolves, because Wolves have that sort of steadfast starting defensive setup that Nuno has put in. I think we could get Hawes out of Wolves quite easily. So I'd actually say Courtney Hawes as one of the options. I would then probably go for my guy Okay Yokuzlu from Celta Vigo, just to fill in that sort of central defensive mid position, because we are lacking there. Glenn Whelan's had relatively decent season, but he's about 35. Mile Jedinak, obviously in the latter stages of his career as well. So I would put forward Courtney Hawes and Okay Yokuzlu. I would then... I don't know whether to include people like El Ghazi, because I think they're going to come in anyway. So it's really hard.
Ramirez is apparently a free agent now.
The ex-Chelsea one?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
And Johan Cabaye.
To be fair, Johan Cabaye could do a job still. Like if we bring him in for a season on like a year-long contract, that would be fine. But it wouldn't tackle the aging crisis in midfield. Yeah. But then we do obviously, where we've got Jedinak and Whelan, we've also got Hurahan, McGinn, Grealish, Lansbury, who can maybe start to be eased back into the team. He's had a huge number of injury problems, but maybe he can come back in. I would say as well, we have a lot of assets on the side, on the periphery, who hopefully we can get rid of. Obviously, Mika Richards, who we were talking about last week, his contract's run out, so there'll be some more wages there on the wage bill. Also, Ross McCormack, hopefully we can somehow get rid of him. He just needs to go, basically. I don't care where he goes, he just needs to go. We've also got players like Richie Delat, who's still on our books. I don't know if you guys remember him from playing for United and Leicester, a few other teams.
He's gone to Australia and turned into a forward. He has.
Yeah, he's in Australia, and he's been doing all right. I was actually quite aggrieved when he went out on loan, because he was. I remember the pre-season at the start of the season just gone. He was like our best player, and he was still loaned out by Steve Bruce. So I might leave this to you guys for the top three, because I'm like, if we just basically abolish, like, let's just leave all of the current players we've got on loan out of the picture. Who should we bring in? 3 additional people?
I quite like the storage shout. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I can see it might be the wages, might be an issue, but
yeah.
And Danny Welbeck as well is in the same situation.
I think storage is a good shout. I think more pay is a possibility as well.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the ones I said, maybe Bradley Dack potentially, Mitrovic, one of those two.
I mean, actually, Ben Arthur is also
Again,
running out of his contract.
The wages might be an issue.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think one of our highest paid players at the minute is Mile Jedinak. And I don't know, I think we'll see some wage boosts. Like I think Jack Grealish will have to be given a bigger wage. I think there's other players in that squad whose wages will have to increase slightly as well. But I'm happy with Bradley Dack. I think would be a good shout to put in there. I'm also thinking of maybe putting Gislan Konon in there, the Rem fullback, just because we need to decrease the average age of our fullbacks. I think Neil Taylor's in the latter stage of his 20s. Hutton El Mohammadi are in their 30s. Richie Delat's in his 30s. Apart from that, we've got James Bree, who's out on loan, who doesn't really look like he's up to much. So I would say Conan. Should we say Mitrovic as well? I think Mitrovic. Yeah. If we can't get hold of Abraham, I think Mitrovic should be our second port of call. Again, he's been linked with other teams like Everton, who are probably more of an exciting prospect for him at this point. But Tammy Abraham did say never when he was asked by a journalist that...
to be honest, they all say
They do all say that, though. This is the thing. But I think, Wolves were looking at signing Abraham for 25-30 mil in January. And he was sort of... Apparently, he was kind of... Jack Grealish basically begged him to stay. And he did so. So if Villa can put forward, 25, 30, 35 mil for Abraham, then I'm happy with kind of winding in the rest of the signings, because I think the players that we have, like I think McGinn is a Premier League quality player. I think Grealish obviously is a Premier League quality player. I think El Ghazi is as well. I also think Mings, if we keep hold of him. So I think we've got a lot of Premier League level talent in there. So Ghislaine Conan would be my main suggestion. Mitrovic if we can't get Abraham, and then maybe also who's the other guy? Well, one of Philip Billing or Okay Yakuzlu. You guys happy with that, or is there anyone else who's sort of massively outstanding? I know Sturridge has been a shout as well. I just think with his injuries, he'd be a bit of a liability, and I don't know whether it's worth it because of the wages. Yeah. But he is a Villa fan. He grew up as a Villa fan, I'm led to believe.
He might take some less wages.
Yeah, I think he might have to at this stage, because
kind of like
I don't see who's going to offer him the same sort of wages.
A term I've heard in mainly American sports, but it's called a hometown discount, and it's where players usually take less money to go somewhere kind of where they grew up or where they went to first. So we might take a hometown discount. Yeah.
So do you want me to should I put Sturridge in there then?
Yep.
We'll put Sturridge in.
The wild card one.
Yeah. Would I be able to put in Ghislaine Conan as well, the Rem fullback?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and then also, should we go for a CDM? I'll let you guys choose between Yakuzlu from Celta Vigo and Philip Billing from Huddersfield.
I'd say Billing, because he knows the league
well. Got that experience.
He's done well, yeah. I think he's the one shining light out of Huddersfield's team this season.
Definitely.
I'd be inclined to go with Billing.
Yeah, so Billing, Conan and Sturridge. So mixed shouts there. But do let us know if you're a fan of our shortlist there, and who do you think Villa should be signing. So Villa fans, get at me, but also just football fans generally. kickbacksportspod@gmail.com, and then at kickback_pod on Insta and Twitter. I think we've got time maybe for one question. We'll just squeeze one in. We'll go for Vito's question. So the question we've got on here for this week is, do you think that the new ownership coming through at Newcastle could propel them into the European places? So it's apparently a relative of Sheikh Mansour, the Manchester City owner, as an advanced talk. He's agreed terms with Mike Ashley to take over at the Magpies. Firstly, how do you feel about that? Secondly, do you think that they could be the next Manchester City?
Okay, so firstly, they've got to spend the money, right? Secondly, I wouldn't be too excited because they are. Didn't you say they are relatives of the Manchester City owners?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure. I can't quite remember how he's related to Sheikh Mansour, but there's some sort of family connection.
Well, that kind of sounds like to me, because usually when things like that happen, the type of club Newcastle are, they'd just be a feeder for Man City. I could see that happening because possibly. They are related. They might think if you take over Newcastle, and then we can then players Newcastle bring through. Yeah. Then if they go to Manchester City, kind of a bit cheaper than they would usually sell them for, so kind of like a feeder team.
I kind of know what you mean. What about you, Nick? Do you think that this is exciting times for Newcastle fans, or do you think that it's maybe too good to be true? The kind of visions that Geordies are having at the moment,
or it could just be a family rivalry thing.
Who knows?
The way I see it, I think Newcastle definitely need a revamp. I think
They need to get rid of Mike Ashley.
Yeah, I think Mike Ashley's proven to be toxic. He's obviously got other interests outside of football. He's not a football man, he's a businessman, and sometimes that stops Newcastle from progressing. Obviously, foreshadowing the future for Newcastle, it's difficult to say what they'll be without the deal. The deal's not done yet. We see this a lot where people come in and say they're in advanced talks, and then you'll wake up the next day and the move's off. So
I think it's happened with Newcastle before. I can't remember who it was, but there was some takeover maybe last year, I think, that looked like it was on the table and then never heard anything from it again a few weeks later.
Yeah, it's really common because it could just be a small thing that people disagree over, and that can be the deal over. So obviously with that, I'd say watch this space, but they've got a long way to go to catch even the team. Even at the moment, the Wolves squad is much better than Newcastle's. Newcastle have still got a lot of dead wood in their team.
Yeah, definitely.
And they need to get a few of the personalities out of there. Hosselu, Shelvey, these sorts of players need to be moved on. But as a football fan, we want Newcastle to do well. They're everything that's right with football in terms of on the pitch, the fans.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice for Newcastle to be back at the top, playing for trophies, getting into the Europa League and maybe even the Champions League. But do I think it'll happen? Probably not.
No, I'd say the same. Probably not as well. I mean, they do have a Champions League winning manager, obviously, in Rafa. And I think if anyone, it's good that they've already got a manager like that in place if something like this does happen. Who knows? Maybe we'll be round this table in a year's time, speculating what Newcastle should do with their £200 million budget or something. Who knows? It could happen, but I would say probably not. That is, I think, going to wrap everything up. Any last words from you guys? Anything to say?
Or come on the Reds on Saturday night against Tottenham.
So do get your Champions League predictions to us as well. Just a quick shout out as well to Chris, who obviously sends a lot of questions in. He got 5 out of 10 on our first Instagram quiz. So we're going to be doing a 10-question Instagram quiz every single Thursday. At kickback_pod is our handle if you don't already follow us. So do get on there on a Thursday evening to take part in our quiz. Chris got 5 out of 10. Make sure you send us your scores to be featured in the podcast in the future as well. So thank you once again for listening. We'll be back next week. Cheers.